Greetings judges, I am Iman Ganguly and this is my project NavGit for GPT OSS Hackathon. Well, what exactly is NavGit? Current developers often face significant challenges while onboarding onto large or unfamiliar code bases. Understanding the complex structure of the code, navigating through the files, the undocumented code, and ensuring that privacy is on top, that no code leaks should happen at any time. Well, solutions for these problems do exist, but they are either cloud based, meaning your code base is always on the risk of being leaked, and after a certain limit, they start to hallucinate and give inaccurate, slow answers. And that is why Navigate was made. Well, how Navigate works is that it takes up your Git repository, it turns it into one single concatenated file, and then it breaks down it into chunks and it makes a graph out of it, a vector graph out of it, which is then queried by GPT OSS that gives sub 10-second responses, faster than a lot of these solutions exist. Well, let's get into the project right now. We are first greeted in with the home page, where if we are using a private repository, we will need a personal authentication token from GitHub. After we put in that token, it is not saved in the repository or anywhere, where after we put in the token, it will clone the whole repository and turn it into a single concatenated file. What would happen to that concatenated file is that it will be broken down into chunks, then it will be turned into a vector graph. A vector graph makes it easier for the LLM to get the context much faster, and it will never hallucinate because it is having a whole graph to look at. In the Explorer part, I have made it look like VS Code so that developers are already familiar with the way they look. There is a dashboard which tells you about your project for the new developers who are onboarding, the possible what should they change and what are some practices they should follow while programming in this repository and how they should use this repository and improve upon this. Next upon is we can select any bit of snippet from the code and use that as a context, makes it easier to add context. The other part is that it is set up for sub 15-second queries. I have gotten answers at sub 15 seconds for even queries which were not having context, and that was running on the CPU, not the GPU, because I made sure that if someone does not have a GPU, they can just use Hugging Face rather than hosting their own model. They can use Hugging Face for GPT OSS and the graph would be made through their CPU, which does not take much time. I made my graph of 350,000 lines of code in 12 minutes and it could give very proper answers. And I was actually amazed. My friends were actually amazed on how this was all turning out in front of them. And I know that most of the code bases, they are on a shared server. So what does that mean? That means that most of these servers don't have their own GUI, they use the CLI. And that is the reason why Navigate does not need a front end to work on. The front end makes it more intuitive, but it can be run without the front end, straight through the CLI, which makes it more easily accessible to people who are into the deep tech part. Not deep tech part, I don't understand what I'm saying. I haven't slept for a few days now. Well, yeah, that was Navigate for you. Uh, Pretty cool if you ask me.